Welcome to Unraveled Mind. My name is Antonio and I'm here with you today to talk to you about the most important relationship in your life, the relationship with yourself. Stay tuned, let's play. This will be a short video and hopefully the first in a series that I'm planning to release in the near future around life mastery. And this was really a concept that I was contemplating for myself. So what would be the information and the concepts that I think would be most beneficial for me to offer you in order for you to feel more satisfied and fulfilled in your life? Of course, we all want different things and we all have different definitions of success, and that's completely normal. What I want out of my life, it's for sure different than what you want. But I still truly believe that there's these core concepts, these core principles, you can even call it, are essential for you to be able to get to that point, because they allow us to really become the best version of ourselves and achieve our greatest potential. Without paying attention and developing these concepts that I will talk about, you will still be able to achieve a lot, but you will be able to do it while experience resistance, while experience lack of energy, and while you experience lack of motivation either. An analogy that I like to do here is we are all running a marathon. We can see our lives as a long distance project, but wouldn't it be easier to run this marathon while you're feeling good and light and strong, instead of running this marathon while wearing a weighted vest, while it's hard for you to move and you can still finish it, but it's hard for you to move and there's been this constant drag on you? So these concepts are not going to be ordered in any particular order, from most important to least important. This is not how they are going to appear. And it's not for me to say which one is the most important or not. They are all important and they all depend on your situation and how you are currently in your life, which would be the most helpful for you to focus on. That's going to be for you to decide. But I still think one of the concepts that I don't see talked about so often is this idea of relationship with yourself. So that's why I wanted to start with this video first. And it always intrigued me how little attention people seem to pay to this relationship, which in my opinion really is the most important relationship in your life. Well, think about it. You have a lot of important relationships in your life, hopefully. You have your family, your parents, your siblings, your friends, your close friends, your partner, your intimate relationships. These are all very important. But there's only one relationship that's with you every step of the way you take in your life. It's only one relationship that's with you since the way that you were born, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, until the day that you die. And that's the relationship that you have with yourself. And of course, calling it a relationship can be a new concept for people, but for me, it was always obvious that the way that I treat myself can be seen as a relationship. The way that I interact with myself, the way that I talk to myself, it's different than the way that I talk to my friends, but it always made me think, why? Is this the type of relationship that I want to have with myself? What can I do differently? And of course, relationships take work and take time and require effort. Anyone that has more than 2 friends knows that in order to keep in touch and to keep the relationship fresh and to keep it close, you need to have some sort of effort. You need to schedule new things. You need to do things together. You have to build interactions that are pleasant, and this is a key. Interactions that are pleasant, because if you just have interactions that are unpleasant, I'm sure that friendship and the relationship is going to break down very fast. And so in this idea, and this is really a video that I could talk for a long time, but I really would like to keep it short because I listen to your feedback. So in 10 to 15 minutes I would like to really go over this concept of the relationship you have with yourself and divide it into 3 core concepts, which is self-accountability, self-compassion, and self-image. And self-accountability might be the more foreign concept out of all these three that I mentioned. I'm sure most of you have heard about self-compassion and have heard about this concept of self-image. But what do I really mean by self-accountability? And the core of it is really, do you hold yourself accountable when you say you are going to do something? Do you follow through on the promises that you make to yourself? And that's the key. There's some overlap with this idea of self-discipline, but for me, discipline sounds forceful. It's a personal thing. That's why I prefer this concept. Because for me, discipline is about forcing yourself to do something or forcing yourself not to do something. And as you will see when we talk about self-compassion, it can be a problem. Doesn't have to. And so if you like the idea of core discipline, the self-discipline, this will have some overlap. But for me, this is all about trust. Self-accountability is trusting that I will follow through on whatever I say. And it's important because it's also this idea of reliability. When someone asks a favor of you and you say, I will do it, you are going to try very hard to follow through because you want to be seen as reliable. You want to be seen as trustworthy. And you are holding yourself accountable to this other person that you made a promise to. And that's completely normal. But one well-known psychological fact is that we tend to do more for others than we do for ourselves. And there's a lot of reasons why this is the case. We tend to be more altruistic, and I like to believe that the people tend to be good in nature. But I also think the idea is this idea of trust and working on the relationship. You tend to value the trust other people place in you more highly than the trust that you place in yourself. And why is that? Because over time, and this might seem a little bit negative, but I just want you to consider if this is the case for you. But over time, over your life, when you were a kid, when you were a teenager and later, you've been disappointing yourself in small ways, one way or the other. Maybe you were always saying, I want to start waking up earlier, or I want to continue waking up earlier during the weekend. But then you see that you are waking up at 10, 11, 12, whatever that may be. And that causes a little bit of disappointment because you have this expectation and you had this promise to yourself, I'm going to wake up early. Maybe it was something related to exercise and health and nutrition. Maybe you said after one day that you looked at yourself in the mirror and you didn't like what you saw, and you made this promise to yourself, this time I'm gonna lose weight, I'm gonna stop eating food that I know that it's not good for me, and you create this promise to yourself, and maybe you can keep it for a while, but then you go back, and a few months later you are exactly where you were, and this erodes this trust in yourself. And it's important because if you don't believe you are going to follow through on the things that you want, you will start not wanting to do the things or to not make the effort because you know you have this lack of confidence that it will be worth it in the end. It's why should I exercise and go through this diet, through this exercise workout routine if I know that in 2 months nothing will have changed? Why put myself through that pain? What would be different if instead of having this lack of confidence, you were feeling confident that yes, it will be difficult, but I know, I truly know and I trust myself that in the end, I will make a change. I will get to a new point. I will hold myself accountable. And I know that in the end, maybe it will not be a smooth and it will not be a linear process, but I know it will be worth it because I know I will make it happen. And this is really the concept that I mean by self-accountability, is this trust in myself. And I think it's really important for us to focus on this, on rebuilding this trust that we've been eroding through our experiences unconsciously. And I think it's really important for us to now start focusing consciously on rebuilding this trust. A few ways that I can offer you, and a few strategies on really how to improve this self-accountability. And things that I've done in my life and I see that have helped and I've worked with people on, is really look at the promises that you're making yourself. make sure you are not making useless or non-important promises, because every time you make a promise, even if it's not very important to you, if you don't keep it, this trust is going to be eroded. So make sure that you are only committing to and you are only promising things to yourself that are truly important to you, and then make sure these things you are following through on. So there's two concepts: is reducing the number of expectations and promises that you have towards yourself, and second is really making sure you, on the ones that you do, that those are truly important and you can follow through. Another strategy is to start small. Make small promises to yourself that will start building this trust. A common one that I'm sure you've heard about, and they do it in the military, for example, is really do your bed every morning. Make that promise to yourself and follow through. It's easy to follow through, and you might think, but this is, what's the idea? I don't have a problem with the bed not being made, but this is not the point of the bed being made or not. It's about building this trust that if you say you're going to do it, you do it. And every time you do, it builds the trust in yourself. And that's what I wanted to say about self-accountability. And now let's switch to self-compassion. And self-compassion is more popular, more well-known concept. And one way I really like to think about it is, do you treat yourself the other way you treat other people? Do you treat yourself, if you see really the relationship you have with yourself as a relationship, do you treat yourself as your best friend, or do you treat yourself as your worst enemy? And this is really something that, a distinction that was clear to me for a while, and it really fascinated to me when I was watching and talking with other people how often they show up as their worst enemy. They are their worst critic. They are the ones that treat themselves the worst, as opposed to being their best friend. And this is a commitment I've made to myself, and I try to follow through to the best of my abilities, that I want to show up as my best friend. I can be both, and I know I've been both in the past, but I want to increase the time I show up as my best friend as opposed to as my worst enemy. And we've all heard about the golden rule. Do to others what you'd like them to do to you. This is hard to speak. But do you apply this to yourself? Do you treat yourself the way that you want to be treated? And it's a silly concept when you talk about it. Do you treat yourself the same way you'd like to be treated? Do you treat yourself the same way that you treat others? Yes? No? Why not? And I can give you the reason. Maybe it's not so clear to you, but I've thought about it. So one of the reasons why people don't do this, it's because of what we talked about before. They want to be accountable to themselves. They want to follow through on their promises. They say they want to do something, and they truly want to, but the only way they know how to force themselves to not eat that chocolate, go work out, wake up early, is to, when they fail to do so, make themselves feel bad about it, so next time maybe they will do it. This is the strategy that you're using. Think about it. Every time you pick up and eat a chocolate, what do? You guilt yourself. You make yourself feel bad. You shouldn't have eaten that chocolate. You are a bad person. You are never gonna be a healthy, fit person like you want to be because you are eating this freaking chocolate. And what does this do? This makes you feel anxious. This makes you feel guilty. This makes you feel bad. How likely is it that you're gonna work out when you're feeling bad? And this is a concept I've talked about in my first video. It's much easier to make right decisions when you're feeling good, as opposed to when you're feeling bad. And if you are contributing to feeling bad, maybe you are part of the problem as well. And by you, remember, this is a relationship, and a relationship has always two sides of you. The person who's eating the chocolate is the victim to the one who's telling them that they are wrong and they are guilty. Of course, this is a concept that has some nuance. It's not that you should always allow yourself to do everything and not have any degree of control or discipline. But this is why I was talking that I don't like this concept of discipline, because when I think about it, it's all about this, do this, don't do that, and it's very forceful. And what I would offer is really be compassionate with yourself. Even though I said about building trust in yourself and making sure you follow through on your promise, you're not going to be perfect. Especially in long-term goals like losing weight, learning a new skill. You're not always going to be perfect in this endeavor. But be compassionate with yourself. Trust that you are making progress. Trust that you are going to achieve it in the end. And be compassionate when you have a setback. Be compassionate to yourself when you're going through hard moments. Because if you saw a friend going through a situation where they are in pain, they are feeling stressed, they are feeling overwhelmed, they are feeling sad, how would you treat them? And this is something I see a lot, is when I have a friend going through a bad time, we are very comforting, we are compassionate, we say it's okay, it will get better, yeah, it's fine, it's this one, you can still do it, don't worry. When it's about ourselves, we are the first ones to say, start worrying, you're gonna be a useless piece of insert word here. And one final question I would like to leave you with is really, we've all started to hear this concept about toxic relationships and these people in your life that really hold you back. And it exists. Maybe you have a bad relationship, a bad abusive relationship, and that's a toxic relationship. It holds you back. It doesn't allow you to show up fully and to really be the best you want to be. And the only question I have, are you a toxic relationship? Are you in a toxic relationship with yourself? Are you a toxic friend to yourself? Think about it. And on a lighter note, just so I gave you a few strategies when it comes to self-accountability, I would just like to to give you a few notes on how maybe you can improve this self-compassion. And the best way is to really notice it. Start noticing how you talk to yourself. And start asking, am I being my worst enemy or am I being my best friend? How would my worst enemy treat me if he saw me right now? Maybe he would laugh at me. Maybe he would make me feel extra bad. How would my best friend see me if he met me in this moment? Maybe he would hold me up. Maybe he would support me. Maybe he would be compassionate. Maybe he would show empathy. And really, bring this awareness and start asking these questions. And the last concept around this idea of relationship with yourself that I want to bring is this idea of self-image. And this is also a common one that most of you, I would assume, have heard about. But I would like to really just touch on it because it's such a key, and sometimes we don't appreciate how important it really is. Because the self-image is really how you see yourself. And we tend to believe this image of ourselves is accurate. It's not how I see myself, it's how I am. And I just challenge that, and it's very easy for you to see it in others. You see others when they are full of bullshit, and they are just imagining they are away, and you can truly see this. Come on, you're just fooling yourself. This is not how you are. You see this in both people trying to be more than they are, and you see them as this fake it until you make it. Sometimes it works because if you do it so often, you start to believe you really are, and you start stepping into those shoes. But you really see this dissonance. They say they are this, but I can really see that they are not. But you can also see this the other way around. Maybe you have some friends that doubt themselves, and they say, I'm so bad at doing whatever. And you really see that they are not. They are good, and you can see this, but they cannot see it. And just one final example that's really clear to see and to really drive the idea that your self-image doesn't correspond to reality, doesn't correspond to you, who you are. Because remember, an anorexic person, even if they are as thin as a human body can allow, they still see themselves as fat. They still think they have too much fat in their bodies. And that affects the way that they interact and they do things. They don't allow themselves to eat. They starve themselves to death because they see themselves as fat. And I know this is an extreme case of mental illness, but really consider that you might be doing, to a lesser degree, the exact same thing. So what things are you doing? What harmful things are you doing in your life because of the image that you have? What things are you preventing yourself from doing because you think you're not capable of doing them, and then you never try? And really, is this idea, the image that you have of yourself is really important because it really limits or enhances what you allow yourself to do. It controls your decisions. If you see yourself as a fat person, you either are going to be very self-conscious about food, or you are going to accept that reality and say, well, this is how I am, these are my genes, no point in working out, no point in eating healthy, it's just how I am, no point in changing. And it really limits what you are willing to consider in your life. And for me, life is about creating what we want in our lives. And of course there's limitations, but don't put these limitations in yourself. Let other things limit you. I would like to take that back. Try to minimize how much you let other things and situations limit you. But there are things you cannot control. There's society, there's other people. But try to minimize these. But for sure, the thing you have complete control is how you limit yourself. So pay close attention to your self-image. Pay close attention to what you say when you say, I am this, I am that. And that's really the strategy to develop and improve your self-image, is be aware of every time you say, I am this, I am that. Question it, challenge it. If it's not something that empowers you, let it go. Or at least challenge it and find examples when it's not true, if it's not something that you can let go. Another way that you can try to really challenge your ideas about yourself is ask a friend. Ask someone who deeply cares about you. What do they like about you? What do they admire about you? Maybe they'll say things that you wouldn't really use to describe yourself. Just challenge and make sure that whatever, we are always going to have a self-image. It's how we are wired. We see ourselves in a certain way, and it requires a lot of work to start to let this go. But it's important, and make sure that whatever image you have of yourself, whatever ideas and concepts you've built about what you can and can't do, make sure that these concepts are empowering to you and they allow you to do more instead of less. And that's what I wanted to say about self-image. And this is what I wanted to really offer you when it comes to relationship with yourself and why I see it as the most important relationship in your life. Truly, it really makes a difference when you start questioning, am I my own best friend or am I my own worst enemy? This is something that changes the way I show up with myself. And when I notice myself being harsh and being and guilting myself, I ask, would I want to treat others? Or would I allow others to treat myself this way? So why would I allow myself? I want to be treated well. I deserve to be treated well. And it's really... I know it's a short video and we have a lot more that we could discuss, but I would really just want to create these ideas. Just write me anything and any ideas that you'd like me to explore more, or what you took out of these videos. Just let me know. And yeah, as I said, I want to continue building a series on these life masteries and concepts like this that I think are key in order for us to have a more satisfied and fulfilled life and allow us to reach our potential. So really stay tuned. Let me know if you like the shorter video format versus the longer video format. It's still, as you know, I'm still at the beginning. I'm always changing my location, as you see. I'm always playing around with how I do things. And I promise it will stabilize one day, but for now, bear with me. Give me some feedback and stay tuned. I look forward to having another video for you soon. And find somewhere around here the playlist for this life mastery and the next episode if it's already up. Stay tuned. let's play.